One of the new rules for schools this year prevents police officers contracted to work for and in schools from using many types of force in nearly every situation.
There was a legislative change, and it came in under the education bill, where it created new standards and it applied them to school resource officers, whereas previously that wasn't the case. And not only did it put limitations on prone and compressive restraints, but it also said that force cannot be used unless someone is a threat to somebody's physical well-being or death.
Officers not working for the school, it's officers working in a regular patrol capacity, still have the right to use force as necessary. And while it's not something that happens every day, Chief Padani says that one of Blaine's school resource officers estimated physically breaking up a fight in school once or twice a week.
If you have two students who are in the hallway and maybe they're talking to each other, that starts to escalate a little bit, turns into a little bit of an argument, okay? They get louder and louder. Kids start forming around, everybody gets out their cell phone, fights brewing, right? At what point, as an SRO and as a school staff member, you generally try to intervene in those situations, talk to them and get them separated, even if that means pushing them back, saying, return to your corners, we're going down to the office, right? At what point, for us to do that and physically get involved and try to escort people away, that is a use of force. We can't do that now. So now do we sit and wait until punches are being thrown or until people are being pushed, rather than try to de-escalate that and physically intervene if we have to? Because that's what we're trained to do, to try to keep those students safe. And if we act too soon and we do something where maybe that threat wasn't there or one could argue it wasn't, now we have violated this new law, this 121A. But if we don't act soon enough and somebody gets hurt, now we're being negligent as peace officers and not protecting for people's safety and well-being.
And there are some other situations that might require force as well.
If you have a student who's in the library, maybe throwing computers around, and they evacuate the library and they're damaging things and excessively, and we go in, we try to de-escalate that. They're not a threat of bodily harm or death to another person, but they are doing pretty severe property damage. The expectation is now, and the law is now, that the SRO they don't go hands-on to try to stop that. They call patrol officers to come in and do that.
The chief says this would unnecessarily take more patrol officers off the street to respond to a situation where the SRO couldn't act. Blaine City attorney recommended that the City Council cancel this year's school contracts, writing in an opinion letter, "In light of these statutory restrictions placed on the ability of SROs and contracted school officers to intercede, it is my recommendation that the city suspend, terminate, or non-renew any existing contracts currently in place with school districts for both SROs and any services that the police department may provide on behalf of the schools." At the City Council meeting, the chief shared his point of view with the council.
I want to try to continue to support our schools with this, but I can't in good faith ask our officers to be exposed to this type of confusion and liability, and I continue to hope for a special session.
We support our school districts. We want our schools to be safe. We want our kids to be safe. But you're correct. The liabilities that this legislation poses for our schools, for our officers, for our city, is too high.
As a parent, this has bothered me a lot.
Ultimately, the council voted to suspend existing contracts with schools and not enter into new contracts. Chief Padani says that the situation is unfortunate because these resource officers provide a variety of services in the schools.
Our school resource officers are not just there to provide security in a fight. They are developing relationships with kids. They are in classrooms doing education. They are doing so many other things. Those physical altercations and those physical interventions are a very small portion of what they do, but it is also a very risky part of what they do, probably the most risky part, and we have to get that right because of that. And so I remain hopeful that our legislators will try to fix this and try to bring everyone to the table together to get it right. There's nothing more important than our students' safety.
So now, the police department is working with the schools to figure out some way to have a presence and offer some safety services in or around the buildings.
I want the kids out there to know, and I want the families out there to know that we care about their safety, and we're trying to do other things to protect their children and even protect the staff in the school environment. But we also have to ensure that we still have staff to do that, who aren't threatened with their jobs or threatened with their safety or criminal charges if something doesn't go well.
For North Metro TV News, Danica Peterson reporting.